Welcome. Thanks everyone for joining our first webinar dedicated to employee experience design, one of our biggest passions here at Blueboard. Over the coming months, we're going to be hosting a few ongoing webinars dedicated to this topic of experience design for each key step of the employee's lifecycle. If you want to stay in touch with our series, visit blueboard.com and you can sign up for our newsletter community at the very bottom of the site, and we'll send you info whenever future events are released. Today, we're excited to launch this series with employee onboarding, an incredibly important part of the employee lifecycle. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. First, a quick crash course on employee experience design and what really makes an experience great. Why you should focus on strategic onboarding that really puts employees first. How to design an effective onboarding experience. Some key takeaways, and then we'll have time for questions. So let's do a quick intro of our host. I'm Morgan Cheney. I'm head of marketing at Blueboard, and I can share a little bit more about what we do at Blueboard later, but at a high level, we're an employee rewards and recognition platform focused on giving experiences as employee rewards. We also have with us today Jenny Lee Deal. She's VP of People at Qadium, and Bart McDonald, who's the founder and CEO of Sapling. And for those of you guys who don't know much about Sapling yet, they're a strategic onboarding platform. Check them out at trysapling.com. Just a few tips to make sure that everything goes smoothly today. We're going to have all the lines muted just to avoid background noise until we take time for questions. And go ahead and ask questions along the way. There's a questions form as well as a chat box within the GoToMeeting tools. And also, if you find something cool along the way, send us a tweet at Blueboard and be sure to use the hashtag #first90days. So let's get started with employee experience design. We're living in a world where employees officially rule the workforce. And as an employer, your days of delivering a computer, some free coffee, and a paycheck are pretty much over. Job security and compensation were really big drivers for satisfaction amongst older generations like baby boomers and Gen X. But with purpose-driven, socially savvy millennials dominating our workforce today, and the internet ubiquitous Gen Z preparing for their green debut after they graduate in May, the expectations for what makes an employer attractive have completely changed. So in a workforce where power has shifted to the employees, future of work theorists, as well as our great minds over here at Blueboard, believe that a well-designed employee experience will be what makes your brand attractive and helps you to retain and grow your top talent. So first, let's go ahead and break down what exactly is employee experience. It might be that a lot of us feel like employee experience is one of those words that's getting thrown out a lot around the HR community, kind of like culture was a few years ago, but it's a little bit nebulous and not super clearly defined just yet. So when we think about it as a whole, it's the sum of the employee perceptions, both good and bad, that an employee has about their interactions with their workforce or the workforce that they're hoping to join if they're a new hire or a potential candidate. And these perceptions are really shaped by three key environments. The first we'll look at is their cultural environment. This is really their attitudes and feelings towards their organization. It's not always easy to define or see. It's really that feeling and emotional value. And what really drives the cultural environment are things like leadership and the company's vision, the vibe of the organization, how the organization is structured from a headcount perspective, how the company has built a culture of recognition or giving feedback, and if employees overall feel like they have a sense of purpose with the company. Second is their physical environment. This is more tangible. It's what you really see and touch every day at work. It could be little things like your desk, your commute, whether it's painful or pleasant, the aesthetics of the office, like an open floor plan versus closed offices, if there's art on the walls, if there's plants, and also amenities, so things like food and snacks, and lastly, the demographics of your coworkers. Is it a young workforce? Is it an older workforce? Is it all over the place? And then lastly, we'll look at the technological environment. So these are the tools and devices, or even software, that really help employees learn and communicate. So how are you as a company really setting them up for success to ultimately get their job done and get their job done well? So now that we know the environments that make up the employee experience, let's talk about what we think makes an experience truly great. First, think back to a recent experience you had. Maybe it was a moment that shot your adrenaline up, maybe one that captivated you like a beautiful sunset, or an intimate or vulnerable conversation with a friend. What did you remember from that moment? There might be key visuals that struck you. You might even remember smells, taste, or sounds in the background. And when thinking about that, did it change a feeling or belief you had before? Most likely it did. At Blueboard, we feel like experiences are amazing because they have the power to be totally transformative, whether immediately in the moment or in the lasting impact they leave. So at Blueboard, we're really all about experiences. Like I mentioned earlier, we're an employee recognition platform that allows companies to reward top employees with experiential awards that can range from things like luxury travel or even local adventures like going skydiving, learning to surf, or taking a glass blowing class. And along the way, we learned that there's a lot of key factors that make an experience truly great, but there's 3 core things that really run true to all the experiences that we curate for our rewards catalog and how we kind of represent Blueboard overall. First, an experience needs to be memorable. This means that things are sticky, that they create fond memories, and that these memories are attached to your company for years to come, even if an employee leaves you and becomes an alumni or an employer ambassador. Second, experiences need to be personal. This means that they need to be catered to the individual's interest and personality type, including their role, their learning and communication style, and offer personalized choice along the way. And lastly, experiences should be shareable. We want to create experiences that are so exciting, so moving, so special that employees can't wait to talk about them, or maybe even post to Instagram, making them even more of a positive advocate for your employer brand. So next up, it's important that employee experience play a part through the entire life cycle of your employee stay with you. Here are the key components of what that life cycle looks like. The life cycle starts with sourcing and acquisition. This could be hiring and even after the employee receives an offer, that pre-boarding experience. Next, they have their first day and they begin onboarding. And then they move into kind of a circular cycle that could go on for as short as maybe 6 months to even several years. This starts with really development. So how is the employee actually forming into their role? How are they learning? How are they training? They move from there into this notion of team building. So really becoming an integral part of the team and contributing at 100% capacity. And then next, really succession. This is where they're exceeding expectations, they're going above and beyond, and they're moving into an advanced role or even a new department laterally. And what we see kind of filtering through the middle is this notion of employee feedback. It's really crucial through the entire process to make sure that the employee is truly set up for success. There are a lot of great tools out there, like Culture Amp, for example, that can help you make sense of employee sentiment and help you take action when opportunities for improvement arise. But like I mentioned, it's important that employee feedback is being taken into account and measured throughout each of these 3 stages as they're rising and progressing in new roles. Lastly, we have departure, which is when the employee leaves for new opportunities outside of the company, but takes with them a very important status symbol, which is alumni. As an alumni, these employees play an even more important role. They're out there in the community, networking with other like-minded individuals, really helping you build a positive employer brand, and ultimately helping to fuel your candidate pipeline through highly qualified referrals, which ultimately bring us back to the first step of sourcing and acquisition. So as I shared earlier, this will be our first of many webinars dedicated to employee experience design. And today we're talking specifically about onboarding, how to craft an amazing employee experience from the moment they accept their offer through their first 90 days. Bart, how has onboarding changed over the last few years?
That's a great question, Morgan. So from our perspective at Sapling, what we're seeing is in recent years, huge structural changes have presented new pressures and requirements for people operations. Now, historically, onboarding has been a very heavily administrative and compliance-focused activity. Paperwork signing, benefits enrollment, allocating a desk and laptop, issuing swag, all of the tasks that go into an onboarding program, typically lasting less than 1 week into the new hire's role and the pre-boarding experience between offer acceptance through to day one. But today, these activities I've just mentioned, these are considered the minimum baseline to an onboarding program. The talent that we're now hiring have greater expectations around career development than ever before. And in combination with this, we're seeing employee tenure continuing to collapse. So the employee lifetime value that we're receiving from our employees is really starting to dwindle. And as HR leaders, we now need to respond to these changes by being far more strategic in the onboarding experience that we design for the new hire. Not only pre-day one, but in the first 30, 60, and 90 days into their role to help these new hires ramp up to peak performance and productivity as quickly as possible. Now, the business case for strategic onboarding is profound. All we need to do is peel back the layer on academic research and industry insights to understand the commercial impact of administrative versus strategic onboarding that focuses on the employee experience. For instance, poorly structured onboarding can result in 1 in 3 new hires resigning in their first 6 months on the job, whereas an effective strategic onboarding program can increase bottom line impact via increased employee engagement, increased productivity, and decreased turnover. Strategic onboarding is now widely considered as the foundation of ongoing employee success, which really underscores why this phase in the employee lifecycle is just so important to create that positive, lasting experience.
Thank you, Bart. I'd love to dive a bit further into how to approach onboarding from the employee experience design perspective. Employee onboarding has been one of the most neglected parts of the employee lifecycle. It's received little to no budget and traditionally has been managed from an administrative capacity. But things are changing. People ops leaders and executives are beginning to internalize that onboarding is much more than the first day. It's actually 3 parts. From the moment the candidate accepts their offer before they start officially, that's the pre-boarding stage, to their experience on the first day, through to their onboarding and integration plan that lasts for up to 90 days. With this framework in mind, I'd love to dig deeper into the best practices for each of these 3 critical stages and offer some tips on how to up-level the experience for your employees. Let's start with pre-boarding. Unfortunately, the time between offer acceptance and the first day is prone to feeling like a dead period, where there's very little activity. When this happens, your prospective new hire can get anxious. But with some planning, you can turn that period into a value add by designing a scalable process that also feels authentic to your culture. This is where a technology like Sapling can be a lifesaver. Their platform provides a really great example of how to enable a white glove onboarding experience starting at this pre-boarding stage. On the slide, you can see that we cover some tips on different touch points you can orchestrate to create an amazing employee experience. As I said, it's critical to continue nurturing excitement after they sign their offer and validate their decision to work at your company. One easy idea is to have the manager and team that helped interview to call the candidate congratulating them on their offer. Or you can have a senior person not on their direct team call to congratulate them. For example, a senior engineer calling a QA specialist. Personally, I like the good old-fashioned mail delivery with a handwritten note signed by the CEO. Little touches like this will make the new hire feel excited and special to receive such personal treatment. You can also take advantage of downtime between roles to familiarize them with the company via a pre-boarding document that is easy to read, almost like a magazine, and filled with useful info like a preview of their administrative checklist, your benefits offerings, key norms, upcoming events, policies, and processes. Remember that the transition into a new role is stressful, so giving some data early can really ease the nerves. If your IT department allows, you can get them situated with personal things like their email and calendar so that they can communicate with their team members before they start. Finally, the power of the gift is something that really needs to be mastered when you're thinking through employee experience design. It's really important that you put some thought into the gift so that it's thoughtful, unique, and aligned with your culture. And it doesn't have to be all that expensive. Examples could be as simple as a few items of company swag or an experiential reward from Blueboard delivered right to your inbox. You can encourage new hires to indulge before they start their first day with a variety of choices, like spa treatments, a local kayaking trip, glass blowing, which was mentioned earlier, or taking a surfing lesson. It's also a great conversation starter for their first day, like which experience did you pick? And for Zenefits customers, giving a Blueboard reward is baked into your workflow for adding a new employee through a third-party app integration. Let's move on to the first day. The first day should be incredibly exciting, productive, and mostly inspiring. Your number one goal is to get them pumped to come back tomorrow. You can inspire employees with sessions dedicated to the company's culture. This aligns with building the culture environment that we talked about earlier. You want to give them all the feels. Show them how your company is changing the world, big or small, and how senior leadership is making it happen. You can host open discussions around the company's mission, vision, and values. Our friends at Cloudera host Why Cloudera Rocks, a session with not just mission, vision, and values, but also funny company history and opportunities to win goods out of the swag closet. You also should make introductions, not just to the core team, but also to a buddy or other peers in their role. And, again, you want to make it authentic to your culture. Consider the coffee card idea from Lyra Health. They give new hires a loaded card to a local coffee shop and ask that they invite team members to coffee over the next few weeks to get to know them better. And this is in a fun setting in the office's neighborhood. Finally, you want to make them feel welcome. Beyond showing them a tour of the new physical office space, treat them to a first day gift. This could be an off-site lunch with their manager or an immediate team member, a welcome swag bag, or another chance to offer an experiential gift. Let's move on to months 1 through 3. The first day is just the beginning. As an HR leader, you can partner with the manager and core team to offer a personalized onboarding plan to get the employee up to speed over the coming 90 days. This step in particular is often left to chance. Even with the best intentions, I find that a lot of companies are still falling short in getting this right as a critical developmental stage in the life cycle. I'll go through a couple ways to do this, although I also encourage you to check out Sapling's white papers because they do a really good job in digging into how to make this happen. First, you want to craft a personalized onboarding plan based on the specific role and core objectives. You want to look at their past experience, identify what skills they already have, which skills would be a good idea to develop. And in addition to the role specs, what's often overlooked is building that trust relationship between the manager and the employee. HR leaders or people leaders should be encouraging the manager to get to know his or her new report. What are his or her professional interests, motivations? This approach is an excellent opportunity for your people ops leaders to get out of their administrative role and into that of talent coach, where you're really helping the manager come up with this plan. You should also document milestones for the employee to achieve. Milestones is a really broad topic. It can include small company-specific goals, like completing your one-on-one coffee meetings, to more role-related goals, like designing their first client-facing media plan. Encourage the manager to own this timeline and share real-time feedback on their progress. But you should also coach the manager that this is a collaborative process and should be a dialogue between the new hire and manager. Research shows that choice is critical to buy-in, so managers should be coached on this. As an HR leader, offer the new hire specific engagement surveys at 30, 60, and 90 days to understand their perception of their workforce experience. And this doesn't have to be very formal or involved. 30 days could simply be a 2-question check-in, what's going well, and what could we do better. The first 30 days, all the way up to 90 days, should be measured so that you're really assessing the value of your program and you're able to communicate that value internally. Moving on to key takeaways. The first point is that we need to have the courage to build for the employee experience first. There is incredible strategic value in this approach. We have enough research in organizational behavior and psychology to understand that this is the way to build a workforce that is intrinsically motivated and highly engaged. That being said, moving on to point 2, we know that a successful onboarding experience in particular is essential to the rest of the employee lifecycle. This is because onboarding is a critical period where the employee is learning how to be successful in a new organization that has new norms and new standards of performance. It's important that new hires understand this is not a one-day process, but a 3-month process, and that the company is going to support them in rising to the occasion in the way that we're asking them to do it. This is what makes onboarding a strategic play. Third point, the good and bad news, is that the bar is low and rising. There's so much room to innovate, especially with new tools like Blueboard and Sapling, that right now companies can differentiate themselves from the marketplace by delivering an amazing onboarding program. Finally, it's extremely important that you're standardized enough to embrace best practice, but also unique enough where you're staying authentic to your culture. For example, everyone should embrace the 30-60-90, but what does it really look like for your company? We know we get a lot of mileage out of experiential rewards, but what kind of experiences speak to your culture? The art and science of the employee experience is that you use a framework like the one discussed, but also think really hard about how to make it your own. Thank you.
Great. So that is all the content we have for today. We're happy to open it up to questions. Feel free to post questions within GoToWebinar, and we will take it from there. And after the questions, please know that we will have a webinar recording that can be emailed out to you. And as a reminder, please register for more webinars on employee experience design in our series by signing up for our newsletter community, which you can visit at blueboard.com at the very bottom of the homepage. And lastly, you can also check out additional resources either on our blog or on Saplings. Again, the websites are trysapling.com for great resources around onboarding and blueboard.com/blog for the articles that we're featuring around building a positive culture and a healthy recognition program.